So today we're making a flopper stopper, and the idea is to stop the boat from rolling when you're in a semi-unprotected anchorage. So we cut out this shape, but we do it 4 times because this wood is not that thick. And we place this weight here. I'm not sure how we're gonna incorporate it yet. Maybe bolt it on, maybe laminate it in. But the idea is you put this on the water, you attach a Dyneema rope here in 3 points, and it comes up like that. And this weight will make the nose dive as the boat rolls to one side. And then when the boat rolls to the other side, the wood will have resistance in the water and then stop the boat from rolling a little bit, in theory. But yeah, let's see if it works. Let's see if this is big enough. But yeah, let's start off with cutting this board in 4 pieces, so it's a lot easier to handle. So we cut out all of the shapes. We used 10mm plywood because that's what I had lying around from when I was building the rudder for Kampchill. We made 4 because I just didn't know if we were going to make it, how thick we were going to make it. But I think we're going to settle on 3. We will stick these together with epoxy. And afterwards we will cover it in biaxial. It's about 400 grams a meter, so pretty heavy stuff, and then it should be strong enough to withstand the water pressure. So let's move on to the epoxy phase. If you're ever in the Netherlands, the alternative to West System in the Netherlands is called Polyservice. They really make excellent epoxy resin and other stuff, but they also come with these neat pumps, and you don't have to measure out on the scales all the time. And it's when I was building my rudder, it was really a tremendous time saver. So if you get an epoxy system, double check if they have these pumps, because it will make your life so much better. We covered all the layers with epoxy, both layers, and then you squish them together so the epoxy goes in all the little crevices of the wood. Of course you degrease it. Well, I'm not gonna sit here and explain you how epoxy works. There's tons of videos on that. We clamped it down. Epoxy doesn't need massive clamping forces. You actually want quite a bit of epoxy in there. You don't want to squeeze everything out. Yeah, and now we wait. It's winter time, so yeah, it's gonna be about 10-12 hours.
Okay, by the magic of editing, the epoxy is set, so now it's time for sanding. We'll get there are all tiny bits of epoxy here, and it's not smooth and round, so we're gonna fix that, and then on to the next stage.
So we sanded it down, we removed all the excess epoxy, and we used a round over bit to make the edges round. But this serves two purposes. One, it's nicer to hold and it looks nicer, but the other reason is we want to cover this in fiberglass. This is biaxial, so it's quite heavy, so we only need one layer. And to get it over the edges, let me see here, to get it over the edges like this, if this were a square edge, you would never get it around, but now you can see it sits quite well. So we can just fiberglass that over, and then we have a super strong board. To start fiberglassing the first part, we're gonna do this part first. Wait till it cures, turn it over, do another part. I already cut out roughly what I needed. A good tip to know how much epoxy you'll need to wet out the fiberglass is to weigh it. I know this cup weighs 5 grams, and then I'll put it on the scale. I'll just shove it in there, doesn't need to be pretty. It's 111 grams, so I know I need about, well, if you do exactly 111 grams, then it's gonna be really tight, so I'm gonna mix up about a batch of 150 grams. That should be enough to wet this out entirely. Another tip is to cover it with epoxy first. If you use a very thin fiberglass, you can only do epoxy first and then lay on your fiberglass like this, instead of putting on the fiberglass first and then the epoxy, because the air underneath, you're trying to force the epoxy through the fiberglass, and that will inherently cause a lot of air bubbles. If you do epoxy first and then let gravity do the work, chance of air bubbles is much lower. But this is a very thick laminate, so we're gonna do both. I added it a layer of Panzer coat, it's called. It's basically barrier coat for boats for osmosis treatment, but should keep the wood nice. All the holes we fill with epoxy and then drill the smaller hole. I added the weight with a big M12 bolt, I think. So that should hold it just fine. And then we spliced on these lines and this ring, so you can hang it from a halyard from the boat. And in theory, it should dive and then come up and stop the boat from rolling. But we're gonna try that out now because it's all theoretical. We zippy tied another weight to it. This is just to try out how much we actually need. Yeah, let's see if it works this time.
If it doesn't work, we have a spare weight. But first, try this one.
There it goes.
Yes.
I need it to go pretty deep, probably. I think it needs some weight on the back as well. See?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Experimenting. Let's see.
No.
No.
Take 54.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Okay. So we need to add a bunch of weight to the back,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it.
That'll work. All right. Now we know what to do.
Buy more weights. We first had the solution with only one weight at the front. That seemed to be working, but then we tried it here in the river and it only dove, and this part was too light, so it came up again and you didn't have so it would stop the rolling. So then we thought we'd put a second weight here, but that seemed to be too light for the triangle we had. So now we thought we're gonna put a weight here, a weight here, and a weight here. We tried it already with the red weights you probably see in another video of us. It seemed to be working, so we bought the same weights we had in this area. So now let's see if this works.
All right. Here we go. Oh, it sinks. It comes up. And it sinks. And it comes up. And it sinks. And it comes up.
So is this working or not?
I would say it's flopping and stopping. Let me try a bit more depth. So it really has some time to settle. And it's of course going against the dark here.
By the look of that string, it looks like it's working.
It works. Yeah, and if it still doesn't dive fast enough, I'll just put some pieces of chain on it and be done with it. But yeah, I think it's flopping and stopping. So the idea is when the boat rolls, this stops and then goes back, and then the boat rolls up. And then it goes down again, and it stops you from rolling around. Let's see how well it works in practice.
It's going
It's going
everywhere.
all over the place.
It's very hard to film. It's going everywhere.
Yeah, let's try it out when we get to the med.